Welcome to Jurassic World.
Morning guests, welcome to Jurassic World Minute, where we visit Jurassic World 1 minute at a time. Keep calm and dial ACU. I'm Brad.
I'm Dave.
And here we are back to discuss minute 40 of Jurassic World. But before we get to that, David, what should you do, or what, as a company, what should you do when one of your employees dies? Apart from the lawsuit in this case.
I don't know, because, I've always been... Most of the companies I've always been a part of are too big to where if an employee dies, nobody really cares. Their immediate friends and coworkers care, but nobody in the company really issues a statement unless it's like a tragedy, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I went for a bit of a dive down in the internet this morning while I was putting this run sheet together, and found a little article here on HR management and compliance with what to do when an employee dies. It's more so for a bit of a laugh with the paddock supervisor dying here last minute, but it's generally best to contact the employee's family as soon as possible to ask them how much information they feel comfortable sharing about the employee, so they can tell staff and that sort of thing. Where we see there's too much stuff happening in the film for them to take a moment to let the poor man's family know.
Besides, I'm sure the litigation was quite taxing on Masrani Corp, you know?
I do love here, when it comes to company property, it's advised you should follow the normal termination and security procedures. When an employee dies, the employee's computer and building access should be terminated, and certain electronic devices may need to be wiped remotely.
Die on your own time.
Yeah.
In fact, die at home, don't die on our property.
Yeah. Then try and contact a family member to get the company property returned. I wonder if, since he's the paddock supervisor, I wonder if he's got a terminal in his residence on island with access to the paddock systems or not. Just as the one in guard. I know he's not there 24/7, but...
I would imagine probably as CEO, he would not really need to have those credentials. So I'd imagine that'd be more of an HR department thing, you know.
Yeah. So I don't. It's a .com site, so HR Daily Advisor. So I'm guessing it's an American. What to do? It could be anywhere, being the internet. But I just thought it was a good little laugh and a good little look through of what Masrani would be facing if the park hadn't shut down. But we're going to talk a bit more about that in minute 40, so how about we get into it?
Alright.
As we enter minute 39 of Jurassic World, Owen was hiding under the crane, and the Indominus was coming in for a closer look. As the minute ended, we got a good look at those gnarly jaws as she was smelling for him. As we open on minute 40, she snarls and roars, seemingly only smelling gasoline and not Owen, and she walks off into the jungle, and Owen sighs. At the 23-second mark, with a beep, the elevator doors open, and Claire walks into the saddened control room. She looks around, feeling the sombre mood of the room, and then everyone pauses and looks at her, making the scene even more awkward. At the 40-second mark, after copping everyone staring at her with daggers, Claire responds with that trailer line, "Everyone remain calm." She exhales and then walks down the stairs towards Lara and Vivian, looking at the map as the Indominus is being tracked. At the 52-second mark, she says an implant will shock it if it gets too close to a perimeter fence. Lara responds, "Okay, but it's moving pretty fast." Vivian touches the earpiece and says the control, "Put out a park-wide alert." And this ends minute 40 of Jurassic World. We have minute 40 with the Indominus head still only feet away from Owen, smelling for him. Roars in frustration, showing us those gnarled teeth again, covered in the blood of 2 workers now. So she's definitely got a good taste for human.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when she roars and slowly walks away. Owen watches her go and sighs heavily. I'm surprised he sort of moved so quickly, because, or there wasn't a jump scare or anything, because we only sort of hear 7 footfalls as she's walking away. And a couple of them are while she's right next to the vehicle. She could have easily just walked around the other side of the car, because, as we learnt from the novel last week, she knew that he was under there. She's seen him. Just because she couldn't smell him doesn't mean he wasn't still there.
But I do love this shot here that we get of the foot as it passes past the underside of the car. And it's just the scale patterns and the overlapping, and you can see all the little bumps and nodules and stuff like that. I mean, this movie had some fantastic CGI moments, and then less so moments, which we'll get to towards the end.
Yeah, well, I am done. Their only involvement in the film was the Indominus Rex, so was it Legacy Effects? Someone else?
No, Legacy Effects did. I think they just did the animatronic.
That's right, because that's Winston's old company, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think it was founded by his son.
Oh, okay. There was another animation house anyway that done the rest of the CGI.
I think it was still ILM, but it was my understanding that ILM's so-called their A team was working on Star Wars, and it was their B team that was working on Jurassic World, because they didn't want to prioritize a movie that they didn't know if it would even kind of make money, I guess.
Which is interesting when you're comparing Jurassic World, the lead up to Jurassic World and the lead up to The Force Awakens. They had so much more stock in that the Star Wars 7 was going to be more successful than the Jurassic 4.
I know. And then Jurassic World, I should say, ended up surpassing it. And then, it was Infinity War or Endgame that ended up surpassing. I think it was Endgame that ended up surpassing Jurassic World, because I think it was a picture of. Because the first picture that it came out with was Luke's robot hand handing over the title to Jurassic World, and then Jurassic World, I think it was a raptor claw or something, or raptor hand claw handing the title over to Iron Man's hand. I
wouldn't be surprised if both those, the Infinity War and Endgame, are in that top 5. Because I think just previously didn't Fast 9, where are we? Fast 8, Fast 9, whatever the last one that was released, it surpassed Jurassic World 2, didn't it? We're not looking at the box office. We should be, but we're probably way off.
Yeah, don't start counting numbers on me. As I told a coworker today, 5 out of 4 people are bad at math.
Yeah, well, getting back to the Indominus, I think for the most part her CG in the entire film is pretty solid. There's some shots where it looks like it's an animatronic on set, even though it's not. So we'll get to them when we get to them. But even here, when she's sort of sniffing beside the car, and because it's sort of just out of focus, it could have easily been animatronic, but they sadly didn't make one. So that's the breakout scene complete. She walks off into the jungle looking for more food, but the sort of pacing here is a lot different to what we've seen in the original trilogy. Here we are with the major incident happening much earlier, where the other films it was sort of that midway incident, then it was all downhill, run screaming after that. There's still many more minutes to come with the park still working, and the joy of it all before it starts going downhill. Looking ahead, it's minute 50 before we even get to the gyrosphere, so that's how far it is there before the boys leaving the gyrosphere and the attendant gets the phone call that we're shutting down the ride. So we've still got 10 minutes to go until we get to there, but it'd be sort of
Remember, we don't shut down rides until more than one person gets eaten by a dinosaur. It's in the company policy. Look it up.
yeah. Here's the 500-page employee handbook. Go and find it. It'd be kind of the same if in Jurassic Park if the Dilophosaur got out and Muldoon was off chasing that around while the tour was still going ahead, or minute 40 in the Lost World, we're only just getting to the Rex nest with Roland and RJ, so we're still a fair way away from it hitting the fan there, and JP3 will running through the kennels, so most of the ooh and ahhing had been over, and we're on the run from the Raptors in JP3, so it's just a different way they've done the films. I haven't even thought about Fallen Kingdom with where it hits the fan there. I think once Owen gets tranquilised and Claire and they get locked in the bunker.
Yeah, that's about when like you said, it's hits the fans there.
Yeah. And then similar to the Lost World, we get the reprieve of leaving the island, and we're back to the mainland. But yeah, we cut back to the control room. However, long it's been since Claire's phone call, and she walks into the room. The guard lowers her head as she walks past. He's a bit upset of what he just heard, or feels sorry for her anyway. Inside, some workers are hugging each other. Some are talking about what just happened, and I wonder if Masrani ordered no one was allowed to leave, sort of like they do with Mission Control if there's a incident with a launch. Well, I assume there is. I think I've seen a movie once where something exploded and they shut the doors and wouldn't let anyone leave.
I can think of a couple movies like that.
Yeah.
Jaws 3, for example.
The last thing he wants is people getting out and telling other people about the deaths that just happened. But sort of looking back at the series, we don't really get a lot of characters witnessing death. It's mainly just us viewers seeing people get eaten by the animals. In Jurassic Park, it was really only the gatekeeper who died in there. Everyone else was sort of off-screen on their own, or even sort of Gennaro, he was off getting eaten while Grant was too busy rescuing the kids, so he'd never seen him get eaten. The hunters in the long grass in Jurassic Lost World, maybe, but none of them survived to grieve of their lost colleagues afterwards, and in JP3 it was really Udesky that got seen killed by the Raptors in the end, so I think, looking at it briefly, it's only 2 in the original trilogy that other characters actually seen die. Do you think Muldoon, Arnold, Gennaro, Caffey doesn't die, Dieter's off screen, even the bloke that gets stomped by the T-Rex, everyone's sort of running and not really looking back as that happens. Mm-hmm. Cooper and Nash sort of get pulled away from the front of the plane, and they're all in the plane running to the back of it to stay away from the Spinosaur. But now we have a full room full of park staff, men and women, who have seen very little action for the last 10 years. Nothing really happening bad. Nothing like this anyway. And before the park even looks at closing, there's going to be people quitting their jobs here and maybe hush money or suing for emotional damage coming Masrani's way.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure they had a very good hush money package. You know, here, you sign this and you get this bucket of money. You know.
Yeah, but then it all comes back to why they're on Nublar to begin with too. Like this isn't US territory. It's Costa Rica, but like we've talked about the 100 miles offshore international waters and all that sort of thing. Like there's not much law here. It sort of makes you wonder how hard it would have been for all those guests to get that $850 million in damages, whatever it was that Masrani Global paid out between this and Fallen Kingdom.
I'm sure. I mean, you still have to register the park with somebody. I mean, you can't just decide to buy an island 100 miles offshore and decide this is your private party island, you know? I mean, I suppose you could, but you couldn't bring people there and charge them money for it, like as a legitimate business.
Yeah, well, even remote islands still come under a state or territory. even Antarctica's divided up. Several countries own different sections of it, even whether there's police or government there or not. But everyone turns to Claire, waiting for some words of wisdom, but all she can muster is everyone remain calm. Like they've been calm for some time, waiting for her to get back. We get a shot of the map up as the Indominus is being tracked. On the left, there's 2 shots of the crane outside the paddock and the overturned Jeep and then the truck, and then surely they must have seen Owen go under the crane and come back out of the crane as well from this video feed that's here. There's also a third feed that seems to be coming down from the top of the crane itself, which, looking at the bottom of the truck, so it seems like there's a camera mounted on the crane looking down at the overturned truck as well. So these cameras would have been prime looking at that park worker sitting there and getting eaten. But Claire walks down those steps again over to where Vivian and Larry are, saying the implant will shock it if it gets too close to a perimeter fence. Larry just sits there and Larry just says, okay, it's moving fast, which almost sounds like he's talking to someone else over the radio.
I wonder if they have, in cases like this, in preparation of litigation purposes, a recording of going on of the control room, and that's why they're kind of saying these kind of things out loud, you know? So I mean, like at any pending court cases, they could just bring up the recording and say this we did everything by the book. We have contingencies in the event that this occurs and stuff like that, you know.
Well, surely security-wise, there'd have to be security cameras in the control room anyway. But as we've seen from the paddock, the cameras there must have audio because we heard sickening bone crunches over the radio both times. Yeah, maybe there is sort of like a black box thing here that records audio. We're going to see when we get to the ACU, all the feeds there have the tickers counting up, much like the video feeds here, so something's definitely been recorded there as well.
Well, they also have a headsets on, which makes me think that besides any security footage of the control room, they're being actively recorded for training and quality purposes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we can sort of talk about that again next minute if they are recording with Larry sort of being a bit of a dick and not gotten reprimanded by Masrani or Claire for some of the stuff he says too. So,
and considering the situation, I think they let a little bit slide, you know.
Yeah. Yep.
But this line that Claire said here, everybody remain calm. I recall that being in a couple of the TV spots where I think it was at the end of or at the beginning. One of the two. I'd have to go back and watch some of them. But we all get the line, everybody remain calm, and then some kind of action would occur.
As the minute ends, Vivian gets on the radio. This is Control. Put out a park-wide alert. No one told to alert park staff. Maybe it's procedure. It sounds like she's radioing maybe a comms room or reception to spread the word before we get next minute and Masrani telling her to stop. One thing that's interesting, Claire here, the implant will shock it before it gets close to a perimeter fence. We had, and this film does it a few times, where we have these little check-off gun, or these little things mentioned that just never go anywhere. The Pachycephalosaurus shorting out the implants by butting heads, and the